Hey, it's been a little bit since I've made a video. Life, work, everything, it's been busy. But I've been thinking a lot about wanting to get back here and continue the series as it's always been about honesty and about walking through things that shape me and shape others around me. In the previous videos, I took you through the accident, the legal process, the sentencing, and the day I went to prison. My plan was to release more videos about my experience in reentry and coming home and the work I'm doing since being released. Something happened recently that left me a little perplexed, honestly, a little bit shaken, I guess, and I wanted to share it here. More importantly, I'd actually love to hear some feedback from anybody watching this, especially those with parents in school, parents with kids in school sports, because honestly, I think your perspective matters here. And I'll just jump right into it. This fall, a couple months ago, I started going to local high school, playing basketball in the mornings, and getting to know some of the guys that were up there playing as well. Um, at the time, I became friends with one of the coaches, and he coached the JV team here in this local area that I'm at. Over time, he mentioned he didn't have an assistant coach and asked if I ever wanted to help out. And I told him the truth. I said, I've always loved coaching my nephews. I love the game of basketball. And yeah, I'd love to help. But I also made sure he knew everything, the accident, the prison time. I wanted him to feel comfortable and I wanted to be transparent before anything moved forward. He understood and he suggested we reach out to leadership, which included the athletic director and the superintendent, to get their thoughts. Um, so I reached out, I emailed, I didn't hear anything back, which honestly wasn't surprising. It was the start of school, full schedules, kids in school. I don't think a volunteer JV assistant basketball coach was really on the top of their priority list. So one day I just decided to show up at their office. Um, and I probably wouldn't have done that before the accident and before going to prison, but I think prison changes my relationship with fear a little bit. Sometimes it's just kind of easier to push forward because not trying feels worse than the rejection, I guess, is a way to put it. And to my surprise, when I showed up at the office, the superintendent and the athletic director both sat down with me for over an hour the first time just walking into the office. And at first, the conversation didn't seem like it was headed in the right direction of me being allowed to help. I'll be honest. They were thankful that I was there. They acknowledged that they knew about the accident and that this had put on their radar months before, but they just thought that it probably wasn't a great fit given my history. And I understood that. But I also talked through everything. I talked about the accident. I talked about Jack. I talked about our small town and the way people talk. I also made sure in that conversation to talk about how I'm an active member of the community and that me being an active member of the community and through my actions, I now shape and I'm responsible for how those conversations end. I left that meeting feeling hopeful, not certain, but hopeful. A few more weeks went by, maybe a couple of months, and I was still playing at the open gym, still talking to the coach, and eventually we heard back from leadership and that they were going to let me be a volunteer assistant JV basketball coach. Felt good, felt really good to kind of be a part of community, be accepted, and be given the opportunity and to be able to pour into something. Basketball itself has given me so much, and to share that with youth and to share the coaching perspective and like a life coaching perspective, I thought there was going to be opportunity for that as well. And they were very clear in the conversation that, should a parent, should a player have an issue with me being there, that they weren't going to stick their neck out for it and they were going to shut it down, but they were at least going to give me the opportunity to be a part of it. So for a couple weeks, I was helping out. I coached a few scrimmages. I got to know the players. I got to know all the parents. Honestly, because I grew up in this area, and I have nephews that are in the high school basketball program um, and the middle school program. I knew a lot of the families. I knew a lot of the players, and a lot of them knew me. Some knew about the accident. Some didn't. Everything was going well at the time. It felt good. It felt like I belonged and that I was accepted. Um, then we had, before the first game, a parent coach meeting. It was happening in one part of the gym, I was in another, and I ended up sitting there for 20 minutes and then I left. About an hour I got home, hour after I got home, the JV coach called me, and a parent had pulled the athletic director aside, asked if that was Tyler Boyd walking through the gym, to which the athletic director said yes. And they apparently had an issue with their kid being in a program that I was also a part of. I was told at the time that nothing was going to change yet, but that if the concern made its way up to the superintendent, the assumption was is probably going to be shut down. At that moment, I pretty much knew that was the end of this experiment, if you will. The next day, I got a call confirming it. My only response on that call, I remember it like it was yesterday, was asking the athletic director, who was super nice, just if the parent that did talk to her ever wanted to have a conversation with me, that I would appreciate that. I don't know who the parent is. I don't know the motivations, and honestly, really doesn't matter. From day one, I was fully aware that if one parent had concerns, it was essentially a non-starter. I'll also admit I was a bit surprised. And maybe I shouldn't have been, but I was. Um, Reactions like this will be a part of my life forever. It's a direct consequence of my actions, and I accept that, but I'm still trying to figure out and understand the thought process. And I'm left with a few questions. Is the concern of the parent that I made a terrible decision 5 years ago, which I completely understand, is a concern and one that resulted in someone losing their life? Now, could that somehow, I could have another lapse in judgment, perhaps on a basketball court or in a gym, and endanger their child? I try to think that one through. Is it about optics? Not wanting their kid to wear a school uniform connected or associated with someone who has a felony on their record or who has been to prison? I thought that one through. Or is it a belief that when I made the decision to drink and drive a boat and an accident happened that took Jack's life, did I lose the right to ever be a part of community ever again? And I can see any of these. I can understand pieces of them, but my mind goes to the fact that yes, I made a horrible decision, one that I can never undo, and I can't bring Jack back. From the very beginning, I've tried to take ownership of this. I sat down with someone days after the accident who had been through something similar, and they told me to define this or this will define me. And ever since that day, I've tried to live in a way that honors accountability, honors growth, and honors responsibility. I served my sentence in prison and on parole. I've served what the court, the county, and the state of Michigan determined was the appropriate punishment for my decisions. But in moments like this, it feels like for some people, that will never be enough. Their role is to somewhat continue my punishment indefinitely. And I don't know if that's true. I don't know if what the parents' intentions actually were. I've never spoken to the parents, to my knowledge, and they're judging me based on the worst moment of my life. And that's hard. And that's not going to be the last time that happens. At the same time of all of this, I've been overwhelmed by the support. Almost every parent on my team reached out. The kids have all reached out, and I felt support within the school itself. It's just an unfortunate situation all around. And I'm genuinely interested to hear what people think. I know that the consequences of my action will always be a part of me. I'll always know that every parent has the right to expect a safe, positive environment for their kids, and one that's surrounded by adults who demonstrate strong character and are good role models. That's every parent's right. So if you're a parent, or if you've gone through anything like this, or have any thoughts, or simply see a perspective that I may not be seeing, I'd like to hear it because I'm interested. So thanks for listening.